Welcome to this week's podcast from Coaching for Self-Belief with Andy and Pete. Pete, what have you got this week?
Well, interesting little story. I was talking to one of the dads of the kids at the tennis club, and he's been playing with his son during lockdown, and he's got a lot of experience himself professionally as a special needs teacher, and he's aware of non-directive coaching and the inner game, and he appreciates all of that. And there was a nice subtlety that he wasn't quite aware of. He was helping his son to let go, which is one of the nice phrases that when we were personally with Tim at the live conference last year, that he used a lot, didn't he? The let go phrase. Mm-hmm. So this dad was aware of helping his son to let go. But it was interesting because his interpretation of that was his son would hit the ball in the net, and then he'd try and help his son to let go of that bad memory. So he'd say, well, let go of that, let go of that. And
oh, I see. Yeah.
So in doing that, of course, he made his son think of it even more. So they were both in this thing where they were trying to let go of something bad, which just sort of made it bigger, in effect. It didn't help the problem. It made it not go away, at least, and probably made it worse. So his son was getting more frustrated, and you could tell when he was talking about it, there was a missing piece of the jigsaw. So we talked about that, and he was blown away at just the other interpretation of letting go, which to me now, as I understand it, letting go is letting go of conscious over control. And that means when you're letting go of conscious over control, what are you doing? You're delegating to yourself too. You're delegating to your onboard tennis computer and just switching the autopilot on and trusting. So to look at it that way, and that really helped him. He couldn't wait to get back on court and help his son to let go in a different way.
And what was he going to do? What was that different way going to be?
Just to help him to redefine what letting go was about, and to have a go at just.
So I'm just thinking. Have you got any examples of what he would go back, instead of saying, come on, Tommy, just let go of that mistake? What mention now?
Yeah, well, it would just require that conversation beforehand, so that he talks to his son, and his son understands that letting go can mean something different. So that then when they say letting go, it triggers a different response. Rather than thinking about the error, he's going to just get into the moment and trust his onboard computer. And that then provides the focus, doesn't it? That provides the focus, which if you have enough focus on one thing, then the interference goes away. That's the beauty and the simplicity of the inner game principles.
It's interesting because we've demonstration by Tim Galway last year, where about 15 minutes into the lesson, and the guide explored various things with his golf swing, let go, and he said take a risk. So I'm wondering if it is possible to be directive and direct somebody to let go. Serve as a coach if there's any trying, or whether they let go and trust. I think it's let go and trust in self too. You can join those up, and you're going to get what you want.
Yeah, and so long as the player has an understanding of what it means to them, it might not be that exact phrase. It might be, okay, I'm just trusting, or I'm just getting into the moment now, or I'm just finding a good focus. All of that entails letting go. So it's finding what works for the player.
Students' understanding. Yeah. I suppose the lesson is help your students to understand what you mean by letting, with reference to learning more from self too, from
Yeah.
the on inbuilt computer that we have.
Yeah, trust your computer. And we did on the second day of the live conference last year with Tim. We did putting, didn't we, on the golf course?
Yeah, that's right.
And that was a revelation for me with golf. How it really brings that to the fore, that there you are standing there and the ball's standing there, and you do a little bit of conscious calculating and information feeding into the computer. You look at the lay of the land and the distance. That's the conscious part, and then you let go. And it's really what seemed to work when I was working with a player. I remember very clearly that when he really let go, then the ball went in the hole. The onboard computer did all the little calculations for him. So it's developing that trust. And when someone starts to see the evidence of that, then they know what it is and what it really means to let go, what that feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. Sports. So in putting, for example, because I play a bit of golf, when you observe the line that you're going to putt on, and it might be 2 inches outside the rough, you trust that you will putt that line rather than try and do anything else. And that can be quite strange because the hole, you're putting 2 inches outside the hole and you're just allowing the ball in to make its journey down to the hole. And it's very similar to learn to play table tennis, which I was doing this morning, and explaining how the rubber grips the ball and helping that person develop trust that if your bat is angled at 45 degrees, most people would say that's going to hit the table. But if you do an upward motion, it grips the ball. And so what you're trying to do is to just help people to feel free enough to perform an action which in their conscious mind wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. And that's where Tim's other phrase that has stayed with us this whole year, which is taking a risk, take a risk, that kicks in at that point, doesn't it? To help somebody to feel safe, to do something that feels different, or something that their conscious mind is saying, well, that's not going to work. There's some part of them that's arguing against what might happen, and to go ahead, take a risk.
Yeah, I use that sometimes when I see somebody has gone so far with their self, and it's just a little nudge to go even further. So what I mean by that is they're fully focused on something to pay attention to, and there's just a little bit of holding back there's a little bit of tension in their body. They're fully focused on saying bounce and hit, and if you just say just let go a little bit more, take a risk, go on, and then it works.
Yeah. And of course that links with the non-judgmental environment, because you as the coach are giving them permission to, this is just an experiment, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment around that at all, so people feel safe. Very good. So what does that leave our audience to play around with if they choose to?
Well, I think it's about trusting in self too, and it's really not trying. So if you catch your students trying, or even yourself trying as a coach, just step back and notice that, and to see if you can help the person back into self too.
And to have a think about what does letting go mean for you.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.